Great. So happy to be here back in New Hampshire. This is actually my second time ever here. The first time was to visit with Project Launch in Manchester, and so that was a great experience, and this is a great experience too. So thank you all for allowing me to share some closing remarks. So just kind of reflecting on today and thinking about, excuse me, today's speakers and the impression that they've left on me. I think every time that I hear Kevin Hines and just his remarkable story of survival, I'm so moved. Like, I have to take a lot of deep breaths just thinking about what he's gone through. But I really believe like that his story and like the hope that's within his testimony has healed many lives, and he may not ever really know like his impact, but I think it's really remarkable. And also just thinking about Megan and Nancy's presentations on resilience, to me it just brings to mind the importance of mental health, and not just mental health, but wellness, and for students as well as those of us who are working on the front lines with students and families. So it's very important what we've heard today, and I hope that you're taking it back to your communities to share. So I've worked with a lot of grantees across this nation, and I am very impressed with New Hampshire and how you all have implemented Safe Schools, Healthy Students, and as well as Project Aware and Launch. I think you guys are leaders. When I was first assigned as your project officer, I really didn't have any idea of the potential that was about to unfold here over the past couple of years. And again, I'm impressed. I consider the foundational work that you've all put in to create the Office of Student Wellness as a home base for sustaining your efforts started under these two programs is just amazing. And you know, how you've been able to leverage additional resources for children, youth, and families throughout the state. It's really remarkable. I don't have that many other grantees that are doing the same thing, so you all are unique. So at SAMHSA, we recognize that youth violence and substance abuse and mental health are very, very complex issues. So naturally, we thought that the best way to deal with this is to come up with very complicated programs that require a year's worth of planning with a state and community management team, a disparities impact strategy, an environmental scan, a community needs and resources assessment, a comprehensive plan, and then a coordination and integration plan, logic models, a local evaluation. We want you to, right? We also want you to participate in our cross-site and multi-site national evaluations, and then of course there's track, and then CDP, and then back to track. So we figured the more complicated to make it, the better. But you know, in addition to wanting you to focus on evidence-based practices and come up with referral processes for component 1 and training plans for component 2, like we know that we have asked a lot, and I'm very happy to see that, you know, you all are delivering. It's just great. You know, I recognize it can be really challenging to implement these programs, but I think you all are meeting this challenge because you know how important it is to ensure that our students have every chance for success. And you also know how much more challenging it can be when a child's social and emotional development is stunted, or when a student is in crisis and doesn't have access to mental health services or providers. So thank you for meeting this challenge. And then we also know that it's just much more difficult and far more expensive to try to address some of these mental, emotional, behavioral problems later in life, when these problems have been compounded with involvement in the criminal justice system and or substance abuse treatment programs. So it's just very important that we continue to meet this challenge. So again, I have learned so much from New Hampshire. I'm really grateful to witness what's been unfolding here. Earlier, Dr. Berry said that you all are leading the nation, and she is very correct about that. You're doing what has been required for this grant based on our guidelines and requirements, and you're doing so much more. And so that's why I'm constantly putting forward New Hampshire as an exemplar for how you're addressing disparities and cultural competency. In SAMHSA's Office of Behavioral Health Equities, we have really taken a close look at how you've addressed, just embedding the class standards, and then also how you're doing this work around cultural competency. It's very important to us at SAMHSA to make sure that we get this right, and you're kind of creating a model for us. I bet you already know that your training on embedding class in the class standards in the schools is being adapted and replicated in other sites. So I think that's very remarkable. And like I said, you're very unique among my grantees because I like the way you've expanded your definition of school age to include 3-year-olds, which, what that does is ultimately expand the pool of children that are eligible and can receive available services. So that's a nice little link up to what's happening in Project Launch as far as implementation of screenings and assessments in early childhood that, I'm hoping can eventually lead to the development of policies and other programs that will support the integration of behavioral health into primary care. And hopefully we'll see the type of information sharing that can serve as an early warning system so that we can head off problems early on with our kids. So I think that I'm really just looking forward to seeing more of what you're going to do. I know the toolkit is on its way, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that will roll out and the type of technical assistance you'll be able to provide to other school districts in New Hampshire. One of the things that we really wanted to do with not just Safe Schools, but also all of the programs that we're funding now is that we want states and communities to be able to take things to scale. So what you're doing, like what you're learning, should hopefully create a kind of process where after this grant is over, the lessons learned, you can take that and just share it throughout the state. So it's like little kernels that or seeds that you're planting. And we hope to see your tree grow everywhere. So I think your possibilities are endless. So I'm going to wrap up because I know I'm like right before the end of the day and it's been a long day. And I thought that since we're in the middle of an election season, that I'd borrow a little from a famous politician's speech as a part of my closing. And so I've taken some liberties, just to make it work for us. But if you are familiar, or like maybe over 40 rather, you will probably know. I was a kid when he said this, but it's come up a lot for me lately. So anyway, ask yourself, are children, youth, and families in New Hampshire better off than they were 4 years ago? Is it easier for them to get mental health services at school and in the community than it was 4 years ago? Is there more or less opportunity for educators and providers to be trauma-informed than there was 4 years ago? Is New Hampshire a leader among safe schools, healthy students, and aware grantees? Do you feel that your efforts have made students feel safe at school and that they're safer than they were 4 years ago? And if you answer of all those questions with a yes, then I think it's quite obvious that you are making a difference in the lives of students. And if the course you've been on for the last 4 years is what you like to continue on for the next 4 years and beyond, then I suggest you sustain your efforts. Continue to engage youth and families to guide your work, partner with new stakeholders, leverage additional resources by telling the story of the Office of Student Wellness, share your data and your lessons learned, communicate your successes, continue to innovate, and explore new opportunities to have collective impact. So, does anyone know whose speech I'm borrowing from? No? Like every politician mentions him like he is the king of all presidents, but Ronald Reagan, that's right. So, but again, I just want to thank you for your work and the opportunity to be here today. And I wish you continued success, and I hope that I have an opportunity to come back and hear more of what you're doing and see, the seeds that are being planted now and how it develops. Okay, thank you.